Welcome back to the Best Ball Boardroom, where baseball is business and business is booming. We are back drafting again. I see you out there, DG. Work is so boring, so why don't we have another meeting in the boardroom? And excited for today's guest because, I think honestly, this person has gone from one of the most witty, creative in the industry to turning around to actually being one of the sharpest in the industry. So it has been a blast to watch and digest Mr. Peter Overzet's content over the years, and it is a blast to have him on the stream today. Welcome to the boardroom. I'm so glad that you are overdressed for today.
Yeah, I feel really bad. I couldn't find my blazer here, but once I learned that you were going to be broadcasting from your parents' basement, I thought the whole show would have a much more casual vibe today.
I think it's good. And hey, you used to be Mr. Corporate World, right? And then a year ago, you were gone. You took off the blazer, everything, living your own sauna life. How's that?
It's going good, man. It's going good. I already got 2 Best Ball Mania drafts under my belt this morning. Excited to get a third here. Like when you reached out to me, you asked me, hey, do you want to do it on your account? And I said, yes, I do, because I have committed to streaming all 150 of my drafts. And it's basically impossible for me to do a draft stream that's not on my account because I need to chip away at these, Justin.
So what was the, just impetus behind all this? 150. Obviously, you don't care about EV anymore. So, let's get that out of the way.
You know what? I will say, that was everyone's first initial reaction. I even had to write it up in an FAQ. But based on, some of the rooms I'm getting, some have been tough. Like last week, I drafted with Pat and Sean Siegel, got absolutely buried in a wide receiver avalanche. But on some of my solo streams, like the ones this morning, I am getting unique builds that I would not be drafting, I think, if I was just doing them in the privacy of my own home. So you know how we talk about how week 17 correlation can kind of push us toward natural diversification with our portfolio. I feel like streaming all these drafts has pushed me to natural diversification. Like I took a Dalvin Cook share today, 12 picks past ADP. I hadn't got him otherwise in any of my other rooms. So I feel like I am getting some unique teams.
And if just by some crazy chance, wide receivers in rounds, 4 to 6, 3 to 5 end up all getting hurt, your rooms are actually going to be like, oh shit, getting that 12th round or 12 pick ADP was actually huge in the running back.
Yeah. And that is actually one of the difficulties that I've had right now is I haven't landed on a lot of running backs in that range, that 6th, 7th round range that has the Pacheco and the Joe Mixon and the Dameon Pierce. And I think all those guys are pretty fairly priced, but man, in my rooms, I get so worried about getting boxed out at wide receiver that I'm normally having to click a Jahan Dotson, a Rashad Bateman in that range. So I actually am hoping to get pushed or funneled to some running backs in that range here soon.
Yeah, and this is what I was showing on here. This was mine last year. Live stream advance rate was at 4.5% compared to 25 for non. So I am not able to. Maybe Pete, with a lot more experience and doing 150 of these, is able to kind of get some stronger drafts in there. I'm convinced I learn a ton during my streams, but we always find a way to screw it up.
Yeah, that's fair. There's definitely stuff you miss because at the end of the day, the goal, and I know this is so hard peeling back the curtain, the goal is to have an entertaining and or informative draft stream, hopefully both. The goal is not for
We're
me
more
to
on
draft.
The informative side. Sorry to interrupt, but I get it.
So I'm willing to acknowledge that some things are going to slip through the cracks, but this is the benefit of doing a ton of drafts and having a ton of reps is you do start to know the draft board pretty well. And it's not like I'm only drafting in Best Ball Mania. I maxed the Chow over the weekend, been doing the puppies, the poodle. So I feel like I know the draft landscape enough that I can, bullshit around with the chat and still make a decent pick when I'm on the clock.
Did you watch the opening stream with Liam, Pat Crane, and I?
You know what? This is, big fan of ETR, big fan of all of you guys. I did not see that stream.
Well, it was really an industry defining stream, if I must say, because we really dug into the pizza party and understanding what the norm should be going forward for bringing people on to streams and then equity aspect.
Yeah.
Because you got a lot. You got Liam doing a whole bunch of streams. Kareem's obviously with Legendary Upside. I've got quite a few. So we've decided no more pizza party. It is full 50-50 split for week 17 prizes. None of the pedantic $2,500, whatever here and there. But no more pizza party. What about you? Because you're doing your entire portfolio. What What's the verdict there?
My rule is anyone that I draft with on stream, they get 50% of the winnings as well. And I think same thing with yours, right? Like significant winnings. I'm probably not going to Venmo you $100 if this min cashes or whatever in the regular season. I'm sure you'll be able to recover from that. But yes, this is part of the experience. You draft with me, you get 50% equity in the team. We get to sweat it throughout the offseason. You know, it was a few years ago that Eric Beimfor and I had a top 10 team in Best Ball Mania 2. And that was a team we drafted together on stream. And that communal joint sweat is honestly like a fun thing. So I'm actually very excited about that element. You know, I'll have a mix of my solo streams, obviously, but then a good mix of drafting with friends as well. So hopefully we can get a sweat going here.
I mean, yeah, that weekend was probably one of the most fun weekends I've had in my life. So Pete and I are both down in Miami. We've got a live final going on for the Owners Club at the same time. And then, so Pete and Beimfor, I think you guys finished like what, top 15, 20?
Eighth. Yeah.
Eighth. Okay. And I know you guys were like having a legit chance. I was in the DK Millie the exact same time. We both had Rashad Penny. I ended up getting fourth there. But like anytime Rashad Penny had like that huge, like 60, 70 yard run, we're going crazy. We've got everyone down there. Yeah. That was a fantastic time.
It was. Yeah. The combination of having a joint sweat and also an IRL sweat, because for the most time, you know, even when Pat was sweating his 2 million, like we were having a blast. We were on Chip Chasing, fired up a live stream, but we're still remote, like getting to sweat a fun team in person. And of course, yeah, those Rashad Penny touchdowns, man, him ripping off those big ones that ended up leading to Liam's win as well. That was a great time.
Yeah. All right, let's jump in one. And so I appreciate it. Not only am I getting half equity, I'm saving $25. I may have to go make a donation to the Karma funds or something for Best Ball to make up for this. But we will be on Pete's stream today. Want to make sure this counts for one of his 150. But don't worry, we'll be taking this the normal way. Number 12. I mean, way to bring the heavy hitter with us.
Yeah, what's the deal with this, Justin? I was told we're supposed to get influencer 101s, and now you stick me here at the back of the draft, which is also kind of suboptimal for streaming. You know, we got to make 2 back-to-back picks, talk it through a little bit, but I think we can rise to the occasion.
Yeah, and I mean, so 12-13, I feel like this year, and I probably am just saying this because I don't remember previous years as much for like 12-13, but for this year, I really feel like there is such a cliff when you're going back to that 3rd, 4th round here, that like what you're doing in that 1st, 2nd really is kind of like, hey, this is the last of the, I don't know, that like top tier of players, because then you're getting stuck with either the meh running backs and I don't say meh, but question mark running backs and ETN and I'm not even going to mention Najee, but you know what I mean, or the wide receivers that have been like the
Gibbs has been there. Yeah. I agree with you. That is I don't mind the picks that we'll get at the 1-2 turn. You know, I think I normally feel pretty good about the 2 players we get there, but yeah, that 36 and 37 is rough. You know, the wide receivers, you're in the Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins. Maybe you get like a Mark Andrews faller, but that's pretty rare. You're having to reach for a Fields there potentially. So yeah, I hate that range of the drafts. And it normally, you know, kind of puts the screws to you and kind of determines structurally too how you want to take your team. Because other than tight end, you can make cases for quarterback, running back, or wide receiver there.
Are you primarily going for the wide receiver, grab the Dallas, Detroit week 17? What's your kind of normal MO?
I feel like if I don't get an absurd faller, like today I got Breece Hall in the 4th in my draft, so I would obviously be open to a guy like him there. I do like Gibbs a lot. You know, I'll bite the bullet on Amari Cooper. I kind of am out on Calvin Ridley right now at these prices. I just prefer to play that offense through the cheaper pieces. I don't like DeAndre Hopkins' price, especially with kind of the uncertainty of where he's going. So, man, yeah, I'm more like Gibbs, or maybe I just kind of reach for a Jerry Jeudy, a Christian Watson there. What have you been doing in that range?
Yeah, I don't hate that. And I think there are some reaches that like ADP feel like reaches, but from an actual projection and player, not so much. And so maybe you go with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, because then you can likely get Herbert in 60. Or maybe you go Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley, and then you can likely get Trevor Lawrence in pick 60, because you're preventing someone else from wanting to grab that stat because you're having both of them. And if you look at ADPs, it's not often that people are reaching that much on Christian Kirk or I guess Keenan Allen's past Mike Williams now because a little maybe the back injury or such. But like those are ones that I'm interested in. Yeah, unless you're getting the Ramondre, Brees Hall, crazy Josh Jacobs, like one of those guys falling, I'm almost always going wide receiver, or Mark Andrews, Lamar if they fall, but that's becoming more rare.
Yeah, I know it did seem like, Mark Andrews and Lamar are now kind of fixtures in the third round where they're pretty hard to get right now, right? Unless you're going to reach on one in the second. I've seen some people do it at like from the one hole at the 2-3 turn. But those guys are almost now completely decoupled from like a normal pairing.
It's tough, but I think Lamar is probably one of the worst picks right now at cost if you're taking him before that elite tier of running backs. Obviously, like that pick 30 to 31 can be completely different in who's available if those running backs are gone. But we're seeing right now Lamar almost falling to the point of like 6 picks past the 3 elite QBs. And on a per game basis, Lamar's averaging, like even last year when he was so well in the first couple games, everything was clicking, 3 TDs per game, was still averaging 3 points per game fewer than those 3 elite QBs. All right, this looks very traditional, expected. Lamb's gone, so Dallas Detroit is gone. I mean, for me, it's probably Devontae and Amon-Ra.
You could see here my exposures. I'm super smoothed out in this range. I don't have like any heavy stands here. You know me, I'm always down to grab a couple wide receivers. I like Amon-Ra a lot. I'll put Amon-Ra in the queue. Talk to me about Amon-Ra over one of the running backs, say Jonathan Taylor, Chubb, Barkley, Pollard.
Yeah, so for me, I have just a teardrop from a running back standpoint with those others. So, like, I think Jonathan Taylor, his ADP is still kind of overinflated. I think that has just substantial risk with Anthony Richardson, with the offense as a whole, and his just like he's not going to catch any passes in that offense. You start looking at the other running backs, and like I think you could argue from a pure projection standpoint that they are like right there, but also like you're also going to be able to get those so much later. And so if you start taking those running backs here, one, you're not guaranteeing yourself uniqueness because come August, those running backs actually might be going there already. So, two, I'm more saying, give me the best players that right now I can grab 2 wide receivers. I can grab those running back to better combinations later on. And as the ADP changes throughout the year, maybe then I can start adjusting and say, hey, Devontae and Pollard, if we know that's a unique build, come August, I'll grab those 2. But I don't need to force that now.
Yep. And how wide receiver heavy have your streamed drafts been? Because anytime, even if it was close between a wide receiver or running back here, I tend to break ties in favor of the wide receiver because I get in these rooms where I get the wide receiver avalanche. I can get so far behind at wide receiver. And then conversely, in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, the best pick, it can often be a running back just because those guys are getting pushed down. So has that been a factor with your stream drafts?
Yeah, but we've got a few regulars in the chat here. Chat, why don't you answer that one for Pete? We'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Because for me, well, first off, from comparison-wise with ship chasing, and then I'd say like ship chasing is here. Your other streams are like mostly yellow, but not as yellow. And then like we're probably even a bit below that. I think it feels a bit more well-balanced. Like what I see here is not that dissimilar from when I am drafting in a normal league. What I do see is the ETR players, the ones like right now, Juju Smith-Schuster, Rondale Moore, are like higher in the rankings than ADP. You do expect those players to go a little bit more frequently. So I'm pretty sure like while you're not pissing yellow, we are primarily drafting off of ETR ranks in my groups.
Yeah, for sure. And it is funny too, because you can definitely tell the players that the ETR ranks are higher on, because I'll be like, oh yeah, Rondale Moore will be available for me here, ADP of 145 now. And then I'll see him go at like 120. And I'm like, okay, oh yeah, I forgot. You guys got him pushed up super high.
Yeah. And I mean, so it's interesting because when the initial release of DeAndre Hopkins happens for Arizona players in our ETR rankings, there is a factor of the ADP. So that players are never too high below or above, above or below ADP. ADP kind of weights it and brings it a bit towards the mean. During those, hey, there's a trade, there's a free agent signing, there's a drop, we remove that from the projections for that team for a short period of time. And so that's where that Rondale Moore, like that's his true projection. Those are where this is what the team decides. Hey, from a points wise, from an upside and kind of ceiling scenario, this is where he should go. You're likely going to see him now fall once, okay, we're a week or so past that news. ADP is now going to be back baked into these projections. So I'd expect Rondale to kind of fall from, I mean, what, he's like 90 something in the ETR, and he's probably going to go back to like 120, maybe 125, which will still put him a round or two above ADP, but not to the degree that it is right now.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals situation in general has put like sharp underdog drafters' heads in a blender, because we do, as a cohort, love to move quickly on these projection bumps that might not be fully baked into the market. You're seeing it a little bit with Trey McBride. And then on the other hand, people are so spooked about the quarterback situation. Like, all I hear referenced is Colt McCoy now. It's like people are just assuming Kyler doesn't even have a chance to play whatsoever. And I get why it's a scary situation, because he might not start the season. And if they suck, why would, they have him out there towards the end of the year either? So it is kind of that push pull of like, oh my God, I'm getting a projectable volume boost, but I don't necessarily love the quarterback or the in-game situation here.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of quarterbacks, we have a sweat going on for pick 7 right now. Diggs, Waddle, Josh Allen still on the board for TM Longacre. And
Gibson's taken Allen. I'll book it. A Josh Jacobs pick at 19 is always followed by an unstacked Josh Allen at 30. I'll take this one to the bank.
And it's going down. Oh, DK Metcalf.
Okay.
Wow.
Snap pick by Longacre.
That was the snap pick too. Longacre was like, just, okay, boom, let's go. That's probably the latest I've seen him fall. That's a very unique and high value start in my mind.
Yeah. And I mean, you see some weird things like Mr. Glass here. I started Jamar Chase, T. Higgins on my stream this morning from the 2-hole and got Joe Burrow in the 4th. That's one thing too. I think I'm going to make a best ball tip video. I feel like we're at the point now where you have to pass on your stack in the 2nd round, because so many times now it's hitting in the 3rd, whether it's you have Devonta Smith and you're blocking, the AJ Brown drafters on the other side of the board. And so there's really little competition. And for some reason, people don't like unstacked Jalen Hurts that much. So that's falling. You'll see the Josh Allen thing happen. I feel like now you just have to sneak in the 2nd round pick, knowing even if it's a 20% chance of getting it, it just supercharges your team.
Yeah. Oh, I gave a little crap on Lamar, but also that was when I'm talking about Lamar when he was going at 30 and going against those RBs. I think it's hard not to grab Lamar here, especially given else what's available on the board. My inkling would then be to probably go Debo here. Again, I do not like ETN. I like Gibbs, but I think it's just too expensive. Agreed. Are you differing anywhere here?
No, I'm completely on board. I think it sounds like I like Gibbs just a smidge more than you, but in this room, I like these selections here, getting Debo and Jackson. Another little bonus for Lamar is if you look, and again, who knows how this room will shake out, but based on where our ADPs are here in the 7th and 8th round, it'll line up pretty well for some of his pass catchers as well in that range too. So I like how things are breaking there with a Lamar team.
Yes, that 84, 85 picks. If we look at Zay, if we look at Bateman, I believe they're about like 84, 88 right now. Where are they? I don't ever look at Odell.
Me either. Worst pick on the board. Although watch us get sniped on Zay and Bateman, and then Odell will fall 25 picks past ADP. I'll select him, and then everyone will be in my mention saying, you said he's the worst pick. Why did you take him?
I mean, let's go to the list real quick and see the Ravens wide receivers, because I'm trying to think, where would Beckham have to fall to? So yeah, Bateman, Flowers are both 88 right now, so we could probably get both those before ADP. He'd have to go 132.
Yeah, he'd have to go 132, and even then I'd feel gross about it.
Still don't know. Yeah.
Why do you think it is? I do get comments on my video, so I can kind of catch the pulse. And the comment I got is he looks like an absolute beast in these early training camp videos. And I was like, I haven't even seen these early training camp videos, but I don't really know who these rogue Odell Beckham drafters are out there. Like, why can't we all just have like pick 170 Odell Beckham, and then none of us need to make a fuss about it?
I mean, I'm waiting for like one influencer to just like post them drafting Odell with like pick 88, stacked with Lamar, and then just the tagline is, "Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me."
Exactly. Maybe it's Evan Silva after his Taylor Swift concert, also weaving in some references to Taylor.
Oh, yeah, that'll be a good one to bring him on eventually. That wasn't even like a sarcastic tweet at all. That was like I absolutely love it. Thanks to, was it Pat Thorman who gave him the recommendation? He said someone that he's like,
Yeah, I forget who. Yeah, now I'm blanking on who he said recommended going there. But yeah, I mean, everyone else at ETR famously grinding their cocks off here in June, grinding all these edges, and Silva just out here going to Taylor Swift concerts. Truly has this life thing figured out better than the rest of us.
yeah, I mean, Dink's been getting into the best ball streets, doing some slows, and so I was gonna bring him on for one of the streams going on, like maybe next week or such. And literally still can't take time for a stream middle of the day because of NBA finals. I don't even know how much time he puts. Like, there's one game. There's only so many players. There's like 8 players that play on each team basically nowadays, and like still is just in the weeds. Yeah, props to the grinders. Apparently not Swifty Evan Silva.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the the NBA finals. I guess what? There's some showdown action, some props or whatever. I mean, I think maybe it's like that you just have some Stockholm syndrome with the league. Like those guys cover it so intensely for so long that they just don't want to say goodbye, that they don't want to let go of those routines of waking up at 4 a.m. to pour over minutes projections. They just don't want to let go.
Speaking of waking up at 4 a.m., Dan Zacks comment about when he's at the World Series of Poker and he's got no more than 300 slow drafts on the clock, waking up at 7:45 to an alarm, getting less than 8 hours of sleep so he can flip through and figure out where he's on the clock and where he's not. In the middle of literally last year, he got WSOP Poker Player of the Year and is trying to run it back this year.
And
ultimate grinder.
And that's who you have your heads up challenge with, right? Yeah. And so I think from your perspective, you're hoping that he has another World Series of Poker Player of the Year sweat, just knowing that he's going to be out doing poker tournaments till midnight and then maybe leaking some of that EV to you in his slow drafts.
Forget the sweat. Let him clinch that so early in the WSOP that he is just partying, going full Vegas, that the 50K in this bet means nothing to him. He's already rigged. Like that's the win-win for both of us.
For sure. All right, this room does not look like a lot of my other rooms. J.K. Dobbins would have been a fun selection for us there, I think, with our Ravens bet, but definitely going to be tight ends and wide receivers we like here, or if you see a running back that stands out to you.
We do have Debo. So Kittle, Debo with a late Purdy to pair with Lamar could be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, Aaron Jones goes there. Let's start with that. I don't have Go for it.
Let's, are we both on board? Definitely Kittle.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah. And I was going to say too,
instead, but I'd go Kittle.
I love the Kittle slide here. We also get the bonus of them playing Baltimore in week 16. I would say, I'm pretty high on JSN. He's normally a guy that I'm clicking in this range, but I'm also open to anything else you're seeing.
Let's just look at the running backs right now, just to kind of talk through. Miles Sanders is the only one from an ADP, and I don't really love it. And I feel like that's one of those examples where if you're grabbing Miles Sanders here, you're doing it just for the kind of safety and comfort as your RB1, when in reality, we're going to have this as at least, let's go with JSN. Put that in the queue for now. I'm good with that. I don't have a strong inkling one or the other way or the other. I think one thing we like about it is that we expect he's going to be playing his best ball, getting his most usage as the season goes on. Maybe you get a Lockett, a DK injury or something. So this is a, excel in the playoffs aspect. But yeah, back to the running back component, like Miles Sanders, I think a lot of people would be like, we don't have a running back. We really need a running back. But I think if you're grabbing Miles here on a team that we're likely still going to be having 6 total running backs, if not more on, Miles Sanders isn't giving you that slate breaking upside that other running backs are. So you're really probably just paying for the safety of those 15 to 18 points each week, which we're hoping we can kind of piecemeal together with a 6 RB build.
Yeah. And this is, I don't always think about selections through this specific lens, but knowing where we pick here at 84, 85, there is a chance that we see a wide receiver run and we don't really like the wide receivers available there And I do think when we look at the 2v2s of like the running back wide receiver pairings of comparing JSN to whatever running backs will be available to us versus if it's, you take Miles Sanders and then you get shut out on our Baltimore guys. And then we're looking at Sutton or Michael Thomas. I have a feeling we're going to like the JSN side of that 2v2 much more.
I think that's completely fair. And I've been doing a lot of talking a lot about these streams, posting about it. But like for me, that wide receiver dead zone comes on strong. And so if we scroll down a little, we have obviously 84, 85. I think that's usually before the dead zone. I'm just going to go what picks we have after. So 108, 109, that's clear dead zone for me. I don't want to be taking wide receivers there. We also already have a tight end and a quarterback. And you could go with another tight end there, but I'd probably rather go two like very late ones. I don't really want to be spending that much high on a QB if it's not stacking here. Maybe Jared Goff. But what I'm getting at is it really feels like that 108, 109. Like those are great spots to be grabbing running backs. That's Devin A-Chain. That's Gibson. Yep. That's Robinson. That's Elijah Penny. Like there's a lot of guys that I really like there from a running back. So even if we went with 84, 85, Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, get your 6 very legit wide receivers here with some correlation aspects. I'm okay with that. And now we can really hammer running backs in that dead zone and beyond.
Yep. Another bonus to the JSN selection is you mentioned the Purdy thing. We now have lots of different outs for a second stacked quarterback at various points in the draft. It'll be Geno Smith is like 114. Goff is at 126. And then you mentioned the backdoor Purdy as well. So we have all these options too, where I kind of like it when it works out that way because I don't think either of us would feel the need to force it with Goff or Geno. But if you get an ADP slide on one of them, then you just have this green light to scoop the value and lock up the stack.
Yeah, completely agree. Okay. I'm thinking through this.
Let's talk about so Brennan in the chat mentioned JSN over Lockett, always or rather even shares of both. I think right now I'm at pretty even shares of both, but what is your take on the Seattle wide receiver situation?
I don't think I've really been targeting any of the three, but I probably have the most of JSN. And it's not like a substantial amount or anything. I think like honestly at 60, like it's probably about the right price for him as well. But I think if any of those three are really going to have like the absolute, destroy their ADP season, I think it is JSN. I think Lockett probably from projection wise should score substantially more points, or at least like decent more points than JSN. But if we're talking ceiling, if we're talking who's going to be playing the best come playoffs time, that's where JSN becomes kind of gets the nod for me.
Yeah. And I've said this on a few streams too, but like on draft night, when the Seahawks drafted JSN, like the snap reaction from everyone was, bad landing spot. I was fist pumping because I was like, I love JSN and I hope I get a JSN discount. And I remember saying like, I bet we could get 8th round JSN, but that never happened because underdog drafters we're never going to let that happen. But I will say it's nice to see him sliding a little bit because he was in that like 54, 55 range. He's now sliding to 60 and in regular non-wide receiver avalanche rooms. Like now him at this turn feels much more palatable to me.
I think that's fair. I think the player who I had a similar reaction to and that we have actually seen get that value is Quentin Johnston, where people are like, okay, same idea. Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. Where's Quentin's targets going to come from? Is he just going to play that deep role? Like, this isn't that exciting. Okay, we've seen him fall. He's fallen like what? I mean, is he 2 rounds past JSN? Right. And so now I think he can actually have a decent role. I'm really bullish on that offense from a passing standpoint. But also one injury to Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, both players who have a history of recent injuries. Quentin Johnston can just absolute rocket. So that's one where same idea with JSN, a little bit less of talent, a little bit more of a discount.
Yeah, I'm with you. The fact that Quentin Johnston hasn't been going closer to Addison and JSN has been a little confusing to me. And I do expect that to correct. I feel pretty confident by the end of August that those three will all be going in a similar range.
That could be. The Addison, whether or not it's right, it feels so safe. It feels so easy. Oh, he's just going to take the Thielen role. He's going to play number 2, Bateman and Flowers, right?
You want to double tap it? Yeah. I mean, so. I'm for sure. It is funny. I just noticed their ADPs are now identical. We've seen a little rise up with Bateman. I'm definitely for sure Bateman. If you wanted to be like, hey, Quentin Johnston or whatever, but when we think about other stacking options, you and I are both out on Odell, and we don't have Dobbins. We could also, of course, you and Isaiah Likely or something, but these are our two guys we want.
Yeah, my only pushback is we're going to have 3 guys with week 13 out of 6. We probably make this a 7 wide receiver build with just a very late wide receiver, which I'm okay with. We can find a stack partner for a bring back or something, not for Miami, but maybe whoever other is. So worth considering. But like, also, do you love Brandon Cooks? Do you love Quentin Johnston unstacked on our, like, uncorrelated on our team?
Yeah, I mean, Quentin
Cooks
Johnston, Brandon Cooks is a guy I definitely, he wouldn't be completely uncorrelated. Little mini correlation with Amon-Ra there.
Detroit. Yeah.
But I think I'm more willing to take a Quentin Johnston, without correlation. One, because there is a lot of Denver stuff you can backdoor correlate with. And just because this feels unique to me, because normally when I'm in this spot at 84, 85, all those guys were gone. The fact we even had the choice between like Quentin Johnston and Zay Flowers, but isn't that the perfect example of, when people say, oh, you talk too much about week 17 correlation or whatever, we're not sacrificing anything. Zay Flowers and Quentin Johnston, the same ADP or whatever, we're going to break ties in favor of the offense and the quarterback we've made a huge bet on. And like, yeah, I prefer Quentin Johnston to Zay Flowers, all things being equal. But if I'm ever going to break a tie in favor of Zay Flowers, that's the spot.
Yeah, completely agree. And I mean, I think that's where, like, no option here for Miami, but with the week 17 correlation aspects too, if there would have been a player like, I don't know. I guess you could kind of use the Brandon Cooks as an example. If we didn't have Bateman and Flowers and you were looking for Quentin Johnston or Brandon Cooks, all else equal, you're really not sure between those two. ADP is pretty similar. You're bullish on both. Like, that's where, okay, give me Cooks for the week 17 indoor game versus Detroit, mini correlation there. Also, maybe you can get Dak to fall to you as a great value at 108, 109. Or if you go with the Goff there, now you're a little more inclined to take Goff because not only is it a stack, you've also got the bring back from the Cook standpoint.
That's exactly what you're describing is exactly what happened to my Best Ball Mania draft this morning. I'll show you this one where I had Amon-Ra St. Brown, kind of similar start to us. I got Brandon Cooks, I was getting a little buried by the Avalanche. He's alive there at 82. Then I get Dak Prescott sliding way past ADP at 106. So it sometimes can work out like that. Can
you draft 2 QBs from the same week 17 game though?
This is a popular debate there. But yeah, when it was past ADP, it's not something I'm like going out of my way to do. But in that one with Goff and Dak both sliding around past ADP, I was very much okay with it.
And did you have Amon-Ra in it?
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. And yeah, I mean, because I think the whole statement when I put that on Twitter is like, hey, in a vacuum, in a perfect scenario, you should not be going for QBs from the same game. Hey, turns out there's other reasons why you should potentially be drafting a QB if it is, because things like the correlation you're getting, the ADP value that you're getting, other pieces make sense that like, okay, I actually should draft this QB even though he plays my other one in week 17. That was an example that you showed me there where like, yeah, it's okay to grab the Goff, even though, yes, you are getting your, limiting your QBs to one game in week 17.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the thing, and Leone showed it, with the Best Ball Manifesto, this idea of we're stacking all of these little small edges. And you could say, all right, this ADP value, that's an edge. Stacking it with his wide receiver, that's an edge. Okay, slight ding for having them in the same thing. But when you're still weighing the overall correlation and ADP value benefits, I'm going to trust that that's outweighing the slight ding for the week 17 same quarterbacks.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay. Let's take a look at the players. It looks like Dak actually is falling. We have the bring back in Detroit, but we don't have anything else there. But I mean, I love these wide receivers. These wide receivers just, chef's kiss. Yeah.
The pockets of the draft have just really lined up nicely in a very clean way for us. I think with all of our backdoor quarterback options, we do see Geno go fairly early here, but we still have Goff potentially later. I mean, I love any two of these running backs at the top here.
Let's put Seattle up. No, let's start with Devin A. Shane. You got the bring back for Baltimore. So, I mean, I think that's from a high upside standpoint in this. I love that. For Charbonnet, we do have Seattle already here, so that's a possibility. Philly, Arizona, Buffalo, New England. So something else here that you're loving? I'd probably just go with Charbonnet from an ADP standpoint.
Yeah, you could see here I'm almost 3x over 3x the field on Charbonnet. I've been hammering him in drafts. I think he definitely makes sense to in this range. And, we're going to be grabbing 2 rookie running backs. They could, be off to a slow start, but I think the running back selections that we're going to have available to us at the next round, I think we can start to build in some touches there and then trust that guys like Achane and Charbonnet, maybe we bank an early roll out of the gate. That would obviously be nice. But when we're taking these guys, we're thinking more late season supercharge.
Yeah. This is a point in the draft also where I like to start working backwards, particularly because this year, not this year, this time of year, tight ends are just so valuable in the last rounds compared to taking a risk on a running back that you don't actually know their role. Wide receivers, you're not really sure what their playing time is going to be, but tight ends, we can pretty confidently know almost all these round 18 wide receivers like have legit roles, will be on the team, will be on the field. We have Mark Andrews. Are you locking in only one other tight end? Are you willing to kind of consider grabbing 3 tight ends? Oh, no, we didn't come out Mark Andrews. George Kittle, sorry.
Yeah, I was just thinking that through too of like, we have a couple outs at quarterback. I think we're both comfortable with a late Brock Purdy pick. I am also comfortable with an Isaiah Likely, either a 2 or 3 tight end, like super punt build at tight end. So if you're putting like a Brock, Isaiah Likely, or another punt tight end in your back pocket there, like you said, we're maybe getting the 7th wide receiver, maybe trying to complete a double stack with another quarterback. But then that really just gives us the full green light to really prioritize running backs with these next 3 to 4 picks. I guess the one wrench would be if Jared Goff falls to us, would we pull the trigger on an ADP 126 Jared Goff at 132 or 133? Otherwise, I think these are lining up to be running back selections.
Yeah, I like that. And I think we got to see who's available at the time as well. Like, Elijah Mitchell or someone that I like who's fallen in that spot. All right. This is going to be, so ETR has been doing it. We're doing a 6-part podcast series on best ball. I think part 5 just came out today. Part 6 should be coming out later this week. It's going to be on counterintuitive best ball kind of strategies. One of those, I'll give you all a little alpha, is on when you draft an elite or a near elite, or like, what do we want to call it? Like that second tier of tight ends. A lot of the thought is, I just want to kind of throw in a random tight end, and I just need to fill that with those random like bad weeks or maybe an injury week or 2. I actually think there's a strong argument that, especially right now, even if you grab Kelsey, even if you grab Mark Andrews, I still want to be grabbing 2 late tight ends in these structures. So one is, if you think through, you draft Kelsey, what is your optimal scenario for that team with Kelsey? Well, you might say like, oh, I want Kelsey to have the most amazing year, finish top 3 in overall points. What happens then is that Kelsey's a high advance rate player. We then get to the playoffs. You're expecting Kelsey's going to advance you in each of those playoff rounds. If he continues to have great playoffs in weeks 15, 16, he's now 30, 40, 50, 60% owned in week 17. It's table stakes to have him. He's not gaining you any differentiation. If you're drafting Kelsey or Mark Andrews, the real optimal scenario here is that they have a good season. It obviously helps you advance, but either they weren't amazing, so it's not the highest advance rate player to get to the playoffs, or in the playoffs, weeks 15, week 16, they have bad weeks, and you have someone else in there that can actually propel you forward and keep you advancing. So then week 17, you still have, Pat Crane had George Kittle. George Kittle didn't have the greatest regular season, but had the great playoffs to kind of project him forward. Here, maybe you can say, because who's in round 17, round 18, you have a bunch of these rookie tight ends. You have tight ends that their roles not really clear, like a Jake Ferguson or someone. And if those guys can actually have strong ends of the year and help propel your team where you have your Kelsey, your Andrews, your Kittle, your Pitts, who's not having the greatest playoff weeks or the greatest regular season, that's where I think those players become most valuable.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's the reason I also get excited about when you get funneled to a 3 quarterback room too, of lining up those 3 quarterback stacks that gives you 3 chances at a unique element, knowing even if you have the Jalen Hurts, sometimes if Jalen Hurts goes nuclear like he did last year and everyone shows up to the finals with 40% Jalen Hurts, having that Kenny Pickett, the Mac Jones, whoever, if Jalen Hurts doesn't play like he did last year, has a dud game, and your quarterback, in the same way we saw Daniel Jones or Tom Brady go off last year, that can be a huge way to lever up over the field here. And we are about to be on the clock at the 11-12 turn here. And we got some interesting decisions on tap. You mentioned Eli Mitchell. He went at the turn back here to the 1 hole. Damian Harris goes in this range. And now we see some tight ends coming off the board.
Okay.
Goff still available as well.
Let's, so Kendra Miller. Kendra Miller, I think is an exciting player. It's not the best structure for right now because we do need to add some guys who are going to be starting at running back week 1. But I'm not forcing my hand there. I think we just let the draft come to us and we're like, hey, there's no great other running back. I do like Jaylen Warren, but I don't need to be reaching at him around when I'm getting a round of value on Jared Goff too. So I think the 2 you have there are great.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. If there was another running back jumping out, I would have no problem passing on Goff. One thing we might be headed toward as well is this would be a scenario where I wouldn't be opposed at all to taking.
Let me pause real quick. Sorry.
Yeah.
Jamal Williams.
Yeah, this is a guy who, buried here in my ranks, but I think fits well with our structure, right? Of needing the early stuff. So let's talk about that because I was just going to talk about taking multiple Dolphins running backs. We, of course, here end up with multiple Saints running backs.
Which is a bet against Alvin Kamara. So this is an easily correlated bet, specifically with New Orleans. Miami, you could do it too. You could say that Devin Achane is only 181 pounds and he's not going to be a full-time player. And, it's not going to be that relevant. So you think that Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert are actually going to be more of a 2-headed backfield. I think with New Orleans, it's even cleaner because you're making a bet that Alvin Kamara is either going to have suspension that lasts a substantial amount of time, maybe the whole year. The team kind of lost faith in him. They throw him to the side. He's just not that good anymore. So in this scenario, Kendra Miller and Jamal Williams both correlate together on a season that New Orleans is not using Kamara. They're a highly efficient offense. They're running more often. They can both be successful in an in-game environment. And if one goes down as an injury, the other has the ability to really, excel and surpass their ADP.
Yeah. And I see Derek in the chat saying, why is handcuffing popular now? First of all, I wouldn't say it's popular. I think handcuffing has been used as a pejorative by myself included when it's done with certain backs. Like I don't want to take, Eli Mitchell on a CMC team. I don't want to take Matt Breida on a Saquon Barkley team because the success of that second running back is completely contingent on my first or second round pick getting hurt, which I don't like that. So, but when we're talking about the opportunity costs in a 0 RB build where we need running backs, that being 2 picks at 132 and 133, or with the Dolphins backs or with the Bears backs are the other prime example, I think, where the market's kind of shrugging their shoulder and one of those backs could massively outperform their ADP to the point even taking those 2 together wouldn't even hurt you, even if the other doesn't give you standalone value. I mean, Pat last year on his team took Sony Michel and Raheem Mostert from the same Dolphins team. Obviously, Michel didn't end up on the Dolphins, but that same thought process of when the opportunity cost is super low, I think it's very viable. And then one other point on it, in the same way we're talking about uniqueness with running backs, one of the ways 0 RB really works is where you're getting production from some running backs at certain points of the year and others at other points. I always think back to the team Eric Beimfor and I had, which coincidentally had Sony Michel and Rashad Penny. Those guys did nothing for us the first 13 to 14 weeks of the year and then supercharged the team. And not only did they supercharge it, they were really unique because a lot of teams didn't advance with those guys. And so the same thing with a 3 QB or 3 tight end with a 6 or 7 room of running backs for 0 RB is you can get a uniqueness element there that I think is very powerful.
Yeah, hear that. Yeah, no worries, Jerry Fish. Pete's got your back. But also, I put in the chat here, here's the article that kind of stems from Leone's research. It actually started on an Establish the Edge podcast now, I don't know, a year and change ago. where Leone and I were kind of just talking about different strategies. I think they were counterintuitive. One of them I mentioned is that I've been really diving into this. And yeah, why I call it handcuff, just because that's what the middle people kind of understand. It's far more, as Pete said, it's not like a Saquon Barkley, Matt Breida handcuff situation, or Jonathan Taylor and whoever is going to be that like number 2 in Indy. We're talking about 2 players that either there's ambiguity at the position, there's maybe someone who has standalone value. But if you look at Leone's actual article, he broke down and showed like, hey, this is a viable strategy from an advance rate because it actually helps your advance rate. Then you have the theoretical aspects of the ping pong nature of the playoffs where one can be good, one cannot. You get those high leverage, low ownership concepts that Pete was just talking about. But definitely check out that article because it shows his example from 2 years ago was like the Miami Dolphins situation was one of the best examples because we didn't know who it was going to be. And then if you just drafted both of them, you were going to have success. That said, we don't really want to have, like, I don't know, I'm not gearing for the ones where it's like, hey, a first round running back and their clear backup. McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell is an interesting one, but there Mitchell still has some standalone. But yeah, well said.
And I'm glad one of the reasons I love drafting with other people is for your Jamal Williams selection, right? He's pushed down in the ranks for me, not a typical target for me. But when we are thinking very purposefully about this room, and like you and I are looking at these running backs, we're excited about these rookies, but some of them might not have a role on day one. And so to get a guy like Jamal Williams, obviously Damian Harris would have been ideal, a guy that could, get a bunch of touchdowns right out of the gate. I do really like thinking about the texture of your running back rooms in 0 RB builds.
100% agree there. Okay. And to be honest, I think if I was doing this as like a personal stream, I probably would have had my eye on like Jamal Williams earlier on because we're doing the stream. This is the downside of the stream where like we almost missed that, and it is what it is. Okay.
So we lose Jalen Warren. That would have been a fun one.
Really nice.
I definitely like Tyler Algier for this build. Anything else jumping out to you?
I mean, you could go Mostert here, and you're literally just going with the same thing there. I think that's a really interesting one.
Yeah.
And I think Mostert and Algier work.
Let's do Mostert first.
Okay.
So now we're double handcuffing, but we do have this big bet on the Baltimore-Miami game.
I don't have any strong reasons to pick a different running back, not from a correlation. I mean, player take wise, I like Singletary a little more, but Algier, you got the ADP, so I'll take that. There's an argument that Algier's role to begin the year is a little larger, like Bijan does come on a little slower. So yeah, I'm good with this. This is an interest, this is a fun team, I would say.
Yeah. And I think, so we're through 14 rounds. We have a 1-6-6-1 build. We know at the very least we're getting one more quarterback and one more tight end, maybe, or likely even 3 tight ends. So that gets us 15, 16, 17. And then we kind of have a decision on a 7th. It looks like the decision, if we're getting to 7 wide receivers, the decision is,
I'm leaning 2-7-7-2 based off what we have for tight ends.
Yeah.
If you look at our running backs, we have a little buy situation as well. But I think most importantly, I just want to get another running back that I think is going to be on the field week 1.
Agreed. And I do think we talk about the various cliffs and dead zones. There is right around where we pick at 180, 181, the basically what I would call it the running back job security or position on the depth chart cliff, where you fall into that ambiguous territory where you look at a name and you go, are you the RB2 or are you the RB3? And I think if one of the selections falls to us that we feel pretty good, hey, you're the running back 2, I think we have the green light. If we get wiped out here, you see now a guy like Jerome Ford, who's just screaming up draft boards, who was free, 2 weeks ago. And now everyone's like, oh yeah, he is the backup to Nick Chubb. I think we can almost let the room decide maybe 6 versus 7 here.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. There's one running back I got in my mind. We'll hold on to that one for a little, see what comes to us. Let's take a look at the QBs, though, and just kind of game plan, because we know we need one, just in case we miss out on this Purdy situation or we think there's better value.
What are you doing with Garoppolo? Because we had the stuff about him not being healthy. Obviously, we have Devontae Adams. What would you think about? He has the same bye week as Lamar, which sucks, though.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do it here, but I would say I'm eating up the the Las Vegas, value drops that we're seeing.
Yeah.
The way that I read the contract. So first off, the news that came out last week was not anything new news. The news was that this is how the contract was written a couple months ago. And so, that was news. It was new. We haven't heard that before, but it's not like there was a failed physical or something that triggered this. And then you also had like the whole, Brady ownership going to play there. We know that's not going to happen. So I think this was a lot of, I don't want to say nothing, but like a lot more noise than actual, because if you look at what that team has done, if you look at who the two backups are, what is it, Brian Hoyer, and I don't even know who the other one was. It's a situation. Yeah, I don't even know if they'll show up here. Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, who knows what's going on there? Yeah, Brian Hoyer and Aiden O'Connell.
Right. Yeah. So like I feel confident that like Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be fine, is still going to be there. Yes, if he re-injures that foot in the middle of the season, the Raiders get an out in that they don't have to kind of pay out the full contract and such. But in that scenario, I mean, it just feels like all the Raiders still are strong values, or at least where ETR has them ranked. Even Devontae Adams, like maybe this leads to a trade. Like if Jimmy's out, they don't have another QB, they probably trade Devontae. That's going to be a better situation for Devontae than what he is with Jimmy right now. So overall, yeah. I'm still liking it. I don't like it on this team. Definitely not with the same bye weeks, but yeah.
And I mean, also, I'm old enough to remember where Devontae Adams went off with Jarrett Stidham at quarterback too, where, we're not just he's a guy I feel pretty confident in, even without the QB, to where you don't necessarily have to force a stack there. It does seem like the board is breaking decently for us to get a running back that we would like here. And then it is really kind of thinking through our quarterback and tight end in game. I don't know if we should risk it with Purdy coming back to us. He has an ADP of 192. We'd be picking at 204. Would we feel pretty dicey if what that second quarterback option would be if we lost out on Purdy?
I mean, what are we doing? Like, what are we passing on? A wide receiver?
Right. And I mean, wide receiver, I guess
a wide receiver now versus like next round. Right. I'm in agreement. At this late, just give me my QB that I know is stacked. And if you miss, unless we knew like we felt good about some correlation with a Baker, maybe, I don't know, like even the Jimmy's not ugly. Yeah. I think it's very, seriously? Oh God, Rye guy.
You got to love someone taking an unstacked Brock Purdy for the bid equity there.
Let's put Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, we do have.
That'll bring back.
Yep.
Running back. Is there? So Gus Edwards is the guy I was thinking about. I think Gus is probably still the right play. I do really like Gainwell though.
Should we grab? Well, we're grabbing Pickett here.
Yeah.
Just to lock up our other quarterback there.
All right, talk through Gus or Gainwell, because Gus obviously correlation, Gainwell, I guess I'm a little more bullish on, but like maybe that's dumb and maybe I should just take the Gus correlation.
I kind of like the Gus correlation in this build. I mean, we're now just playing on Ravens scorching the earth here, and Edwards could be a big part of that. And just that concept of like Damian Harris light, the guy who could fall into the end zone for us early to kind of buoy some of these rookie running backs.
Yeah. I mean, that's Gainwell's going to get playing time that first week too. I don't understand why Gus Edwards is being drafted where he is, because if you're comparing him to J.K. Dobbins, like, yes, it's new. I mean, new OC, Todd Monken comes in. Obviously, like maybe you're not going to get the same split that you got in past years with Gus Edwards and Dobbins, but like they've made it clear that they like Gus. They restructured his contract to keep him when they could have just cut him if they didn't want him. He's ever since he's been healthy for the Ravens, he's always had a substantial role in a highly efficient run game. Neither Dobbins nor Gus are catching substantial passes, so it's not like one of them is just eating a lot more. I like Dobbins. I don't understand why the gap between Dobbins and Gus is so large.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's just this thing where we know who Gus Edwards is. J.K. Dobbins still has a little bit of that black box feeling where he's been injured so much, and we still tell ourselves the story of like, who's the guy that could rip off, 40-yard runs in this offense. But I agree with you. The gap is probably way too big. And it's more so on Gus, right? Like Gus should probably be coming up a little bit than it is like Dobbins should be plummeting. I'm still tilting the Brock snipe a little bit, especially when I noticed Rye Guy had Najee Harris on his team too, where Pickett is such a better selection for that team than an unstacked Brock Purdy. But I'm going to get past it, Justin. I am going to get past it.
Can we at least like give him something? Is there a Washington player? Nothing.
You can't give him anything.
Nothing.
There's nothing. Just
Right,
a completely.
You need to draft Juwan Johnson to really, not Juwan Jennings. You need to draft Juwan Jennings in the 18th to really show that you knew what you were doing.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I've been actually wanting to get a little bit more Brock stuff, so I was excited about that. The excuse to draft Brock Purdy there, and nope, Rye Guy had other plans.
I see you, Derek. You say just take Lance, but no, we wanted to get the San Francisco correlation.
Yeah. Although, man, did you see a Smash Mouth bagging on Trey Lance on Twitter yesterday? That's how bad it's gotten for Trey Lance. 90s bands are roasting him.
Oh, I mean, I think there's a scenario like the Trey Lance scenario really has to be like Las Vegas or I don't even know anymore. It's really bad. Like it's got to be injury prone.
Yeah.
I hate it. Okay. We need a wide receiver. We need a tight end. How are we feeling?
So would this ever be a spot? Because I have not done it, but would you ever take an Allen Robinson flyer here?
I 100% would. At the end of the day, it's a flyer, and we have zero correlation for Pittsburgh other than the JSN and Charbonnet bring back. So like we are investing a decent amount in that Pitt Seattle game. I mean, are you really going to tell me Allen Robinson is that much worse than Robert Woods or Mecole Hardman or Chase Clay? Like, right? Yeah. So if you were to look at my ownership, it's probably like rhymes with 0% of how much I own of Allen Robinson. But this is the situation where I would take him. And you know what? I'm fine with saying that on a stream right now because if you want to snipe Allen Robinson from us for this, Rye Guy, I'm looking at you.
Rye Guy,
if you want,
go for it. Please, Rye Guy. Rye Guy, how about this? You have to take Danny Gray, Rye Guy, to somehow justify your San Francisco Bay. The chat is on fire for Calvin Austin. I've heard this guy's name tossed out a bunch. He has not been on my radar. Is Calvin Austin on your radar?
Not at all. I think it's honestly just a name. It sounds really similar to Calvin Johnson. Like that sounds like a cool wide receiver name. Was he like a 4-year college player? I don't think he was a great prospect coming out.
Calvin Austin's name in other languages translates to not Allen Robinson. I think that's his biggest selling point for the chat.
24 years old, 5'9", 161. Oh, those are the wide receivers that we want. I don't know. If you're 161 and you weren't able to get on the field early on, I'm not expecting that to change anytime soon. Like Tutu, extremely tall, but like you could tell they actually wanted to work him the ball in his early. What is he, a sophomore year this year? Sophomore, junior. Yeah.
We did lose out on Likely if we wanted to giga stack the Ravens. So we'll have to take a look here. We could build out our Seattle bet with Noah Fant.
3 on a bring back is a lot from me.
Okay.
Conklin, Cleveland, nothing. That's just the highest ADP. Let's
Jelani with our Devontae Adams.
Okay. Let's take a look at wide receivers real quick because we know we've got a bunch of at least tight end options there.
I am going to put Allen Robinson just in the queue real quick.
Yep, that's fair. Chase Claypool, Robert Woods, those at least look nicer. Not Claypool because of 13. I think Robinson is probably the right play here. At tight end, I'm going to push for either Tyler Conklin or Hunter Henry. Tyler Conklin from an ADP is who I'd probably end up with just because, hey, a little less competition. You get Rodgers, wider range of outcomes of what could happen. No bye week situation there, no. But like Hunter Henry, I have so much Hunter Henry. And the latest news that Mike Gesicki is like running with the wide receivers, which is not that surprising. I just think like he's a screaming value as a number 2 kind of guy to more consistent from Kittle. But Tyler Conklin, ADP, solid role, large range of outcomes with Rodgers works for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say if we're not gonna correlate, I think I just lean to taking the ADP value there with Conklin. That's a pretty nice tight end pairing there with Kittle and Conklin.
And that just shows like why I've been doing so many late tight ends in these builds. Like,
Yeah.
tell me the real difference between Tyler Conklin and Dalton Schultz. Like, yeah, Dalton Schultz in this structure is going to be on the field a little more often. Tyler Conklin's not running all the routes. I used this example with Hayden Hurst previously. But like the difference between tight end 14 and tight end 26 in projections is extremely minimal. But if you look at the running backs that are going in the 12th, 11th, 12th round versus the running backs now, that's night and day. So that's where the value right now is obviously tight ends in the late rounds, no question.
So we ended up with a build type that has always been one of my favorites. I haven't been doing as many of them just because zero RB has been a little tougher to pull off earlier in the draft season, but this one broke perfectly for us for a 2-7-7-2. We finished with Lamar Jackson and Kenny Pickett at quarterback, 7 running backs, Devin Achane, our first one at pick 108, Zach Charbonnet, Kendre Miller, Jamal Williams, Raheem Mostert, Tyler Algier, and Gus Edwards. Our wide receivers, Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Deebo Samuel, JSN, our double stack with Lamar, Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, and a much begrudging Allen Robinson selection. Then tight ends, George Kittle and Tyler Conklin. Thoughts?
I like it. I like it a lot. Just like the small things. But if we could have got Jaylen Warren falling a couple more slots instead of that Tyler Algier, because I love Jaylen Warren and Kenny Pickett as a combo because you're merely making a bet that like this team's going to be a little more of an explosive pass-heavy offense and not just like a slow Najee grinder. So I think there's some positive correlation aspects there. Overall, like I have not done many 7 running backs builds, but this felt like a good time to do it. We got actual value on the 7th running back, not just like a late throw in. And we need those early running back points just to survive. But overall, I really feel good about our positions except for running back, but that's perfectly okay with a 0 running back build.
Yeah, I'm with you. You identified the Warren one would have been really nice. Obviously, Brock would have been nice. I was kind of excited about a 3 tight end build with Likely and a third guy. That didn't break perfectly, but you can't have it all in these draft rooms.
No, the Rye guy one. Yeah, the Purdy one would have been nice. That a lot of things would have fallen into place there with the Kittle, the Deebo. No bring back, but that's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, and I like Kenny Pickett a lot. So I think that selection, getting an ADP value on him, and you can always find a stack there. We're just one George Pickens injury away and Allen Robinson turning the clock back to 2015, and we're good.
Can't complain there. This was fun. Pete, thank you for joining me. Glad we were able to get another draft under your belt, under your 150. Hopefully I can take that advance rate a little higher than my 5% and get you up to maybe something like a 20, 22, 23% or even.
I would love that.
Usually it's like, hey, what do you have going on the rest of the summer and stuff? But we only have not an hour for you to tell everyone. So what do you have going on the next week, the rest of summer? I don't know. Let them know.
Well, before I forget, so I am doing this thing where I'm doing a giveaway challenge for when I hit 15,000 subs on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/PeterOverzet. I'm going to give $500 away to 3 different winners. And to get entries in those, you leave a comment on any of my draft streams. This includes whether it's on my channel, on this show today, on the Fantasy Life channel, Swolecast, Ship Chasing, wherever I do streams. If you leave a comment after, you will be entered into that contest. I have a playlist on my YouTube channel for all of my live draft streams I do. So if you want to go boost up your chances, you can go through that old playlist, watch the streams, leave comments. But as to punctuate it, this stream is eligible. So the second this show is over, leave a comment. And that will get you an entry into my $1,500 giveaway.
And so I just put your link to your YouTube channel in the comments. Do they need to be subscribers? I mean, if not, yes.
Yeah, they do.
I will at least.
I will hunt them down if they are just leaving a comment and not subscribing. So yes, very, very simple. And I have been doing, obviously, a bunch of drafts on my channel, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. I do drafts at 10 a.m. and then mixing in on Ship Chasing, Swolecast, Fantasy Live, all that good stuff.
Awesome. Well, Pete, thank you for joining us. Everyone in chat, this has been fantastic. You were awesome. Great start to the week. I will see you all Thursday. We'll be back. We've got another great. I'm trying to think. I don't even know. No, we got a good one coming up, though. So can't wait for that. Have a great start to your weeks. And Pete, I will see you later.
Peace, guys.